today with Chef LiLi. And first and foremost, if you haven't already, please go to our YouTube channel on Maximum Libertarian. You can follow us on Twitter at WeAreMaxLib. Follow us there. Help us out. Subscribe. Click the notification bell. All that good stuff. Like and share the video. And like I said, today I'm joined by Chef LiLi, and we're going to just be going over some topics from the COVID-19 stress, what you should be eating. You can follow her on rumble.com at Beautiful Chili. And how to spell that? Is it C-H-I-L-I-E, correct?
Yes, I like the country.
So it's beautiful and like the country chili. So, all right, let's just go on and dive into it. We just did a YouTube stream about stress, what foods to eat to make you more happier. But now, because of YouTube and their censorship, we can talk a little bit more free, I believe.
Yay.
What do you think about the COVID-19 nonsense?
Oh, I think it's a big scam. It was a joke. It was to see how far they could push us Americans in losing our everyday freedoms and how we would respond to one another about it. It gave false power to people that already have power, but gave them an opportunity to abuse their powers. We saw that in Michigan. We saw that here in Virginia. We saw it all over California, definitely. And it was just the biggest scam of my lifetime, I should say. And I feel that if this ever happens again, we will know what's up, right? We know, hopefully Dr. Fauci will be gone by then. But, we will know, and I know that us Americans, we seem to forgive and forget. But I think this year of lockdowns and all this shenanigans about restaurants and wearing 1 or 2 masks, wearing no mask, and shaming people that don't want to wear a mask, and all of that's done and dead. We have been brainwashed enough, and we're, as Americans, I feel that we're going to be free, because our freedom is embedded in us. And like we were going to share today about the military and freedoms from that aspect to being a civilian and our freedom as an American. So
right,
I just feel that this is the biggest scam joke in American history as of today, today's date.
Well, one of the biggest problems that we've got here is, now when President Trump said that it possibly came out of a lab, he didn't know. It was like they all discredited him. Now he's out of office. Now they're looking at it. Now they're saying, well, it might have come out of the lab. If not saying it came out of a lab. Yeah. We don't really know. The problem that happens is as much as you want to sit here and paint the picture of how bad China is, we just have as much responsibility if we were sending taxpayer dollars over into the Wuhan lab, even if it's getting funneled in by a different way.
Yes.
I think I can't remember there was a name that they were calling it, but they were funneling it in. So we just have as much responsibility. Now, granted, let's just come out and say, hey, it was a mistake. We were trying to figure things out. It would have been fine. I think
more of us would accept that. Yeah.
I think we would, but now we've gotten so far out here. Now we're going to be like you locked me down for all these months, and
a year.
You're still having all of this stuff come up because of it. If it's a vaccine passport to people still being locked down in different parts of the world and different parts of the country here,
But the crazy thing out of all the shenanigans is to see and hear and feel the American people rise up. And we rise up differently than we did in the 60s and the 70s, how we were protesting the Vietnam War to now. And when you see Black Lives Matter on the streets protesting versus what they did in the 60s when the Vietnam veterans were coming back into the United States. So what I want to bring here today is a history of how things are being repeated, but then up the level. When the Black Lives Matter head spokesman lady that bought, 3 or 4 multi-million-dollar homes had to step down. That was Americans saying, hey, what is going on? You know?
Right.
And it was like, there's so many things that are happening at once, right? So it's almost like a ping pong kind of game. No pun intended to China, because I know that's their game. But it's like everything is coming at us Americans, because you have, I'm going to just name some things that are coming at you. You have VitMax, you have BitChute, you have Odyssey, you have Rumble, you have YouTube. You have all these different outlets that nobody's listening to the mainstream media, or I should say cable news anymore, because we've been lied to about everything for so long. But see, we didn't know how long we were being lied to. And then when we figured all of this stuff out, it's like, holy mackerel. And the most famous line that came out of 2021 is, Alex Jones was right again. And it's just like, we've been shutting up people, or the way we used to shut up people was saying they're conspiracies and they're, they're so far out there, right? Well, now in 2020 and 2021, we're going to shut you off of YouTube. We're going to take you off of Twitter. We don't care if you're the president of the United States. You don't follow this certain criteria and you're not backing up the left, which is a very interesting mindset. Then this is what happens. But then, as Americans, we adapt and overcome, just like military personnel. We invent BitChute. We invent Odyssey. We invent Twitch. We invent Rumble. So if you're going to silence me on YouTube, then I got other options, right? And that to me is really amazing. But then, once again, we're separating, right? So people that haven't made up their minds if they want to be BML or if they want to be a patriot. Now there's a difference, because patriotism isn't dead here. And I don't think it will ever be dead, because you, Brian, and me, we're veterans. And what I wanted to share with this podcast was the mentality. It's really hard to change everybody's mind. And I felt that when we were quote unquote locked down, my husband and I, who's also a veteran, we looked at it very differently. We looked at it like, how dare you tell me what I can and cannot do? That's how I feel. I shouldn't speak for my husband. I should speak just for myself. How dare you tell me? I went to war for this country. I was the sailor in September 11th. We fought and stood up for this country for so many years, and I don't regret any part of it, And it's like, to me, when we started finding out what really happened in September 11th versus what the news reported, and what the news reported was half-truths, lies, and then there was this video my husband shared with me, Brian, back in the day. It was commentary. I don't know if it was 60 Minutes, so I can't say it was 60 Minutes, but it was like a show like that. Mm-hmm. And they were basically telling that the buildings around the 2 buildings that fell.
You're talking about BBC when they talk about building World Trade Center number 7.
No. There was other buildings that were on a list to get demolished that day. Okay. September 11th. And when the news came out, they're saying, oh, this building fell, and the 2 towers fell. And it was just like, okay, that was a lot. But in that same time, there was documentaries happening stating, oh, these other buildings were licensed to be taken down. I don't know what the right terminology was, but they had bombs put in these buildings to demolish the buildings so they would no longer stand. That is a technique that is used all throughout this world to demolish buildings, is to bomb them. But sometimes you can put bombs in buildings to collapse the building for safe demolishing. because back in the day they would use an iron ball and a crane and knock it down like that. But that can be very, time consuming and stuff as well. But it was so amazing to know, okay, so we were lied about this, and then American people were lied about that. And there's people, and I like to think that you're one of us, Brian, that we're done with the lies, Okay, so now there's another conspiracy. Oh, UFOs don't exist, and now all of a sudden they exist. We've known they exist. We were telling people that they have, right? In the military, especially anybody that's in aviation or works with, the aircraft carrier on the top side part, which is very active 24 hours of the whole entire time you're out to sea. The only time I feel like the aircraft carrier is not active is when we're in port. But anyway, it's just like we've known a lot of things that were happening in this world, especially in America, for a long time. And now it's like President Trump got the rest of Americans interested in life and interested in the truth. And that is the one thing that nobody can deny the president ever. I don't care anything that's happening in this administration at all. It's all game. It's all theater. Like Dr. Ron Paul said to Dr. Fauci, the mask thing is a theater. And I feel like this administration is just that. You're trying to bring us back to like Franklin Roosevelt time. Everything was staged. Everything was fake. Everything was this, and this, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like America's woken up, and we're not going to digest whatever you're trying to spit down our throats anymore, because we know that it's not the truth. And one of my favorite presidents is Theodore Roosevelt, the uncle of Franklin Roosevelt, said was, one thing that makes conservative people angry is tell us a lie. And I feel that statement is so much more true today than ever, because we have been lied. Okay, so let me break it down. UFO, September 11th. Now we're finding out the real reason why we even went to Vietnam. And it's just like all these truths are coming out left, right? It's like we're in a boxing match, pow, 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 or an MMA fight, mm-hmm. And I just feel that the America that we once knew and loved is now being rebuilt. And it's like now we're being built with steel. So now whatever anybody's trying to roll out a lie, you're only going to have a very certain small percentage of Americans that will still believe the lies. Now, the thing that really gets me is what they're lying to about people about the military, and versus when I say lying about the military, I'll break that down a little bit. But another thing is what they're lying to you about food, what they're lying to you about vaccines. Now more videos are coming out that's saying that if you put a swab in your nose, the swab already has COVID in it. So you're giving it to yourself while you're doing the scrape. And it's just like, what? And I'm so grateful for the Russians that did the video on YouTube, BitChute, and basically blew all our minds apart when he did a microscope and he looked at and he showed us this is a sealed container. Is that your baby?
Yeah, it's the cat.
So he showed on a BitChute a microscope and showed that there was worms and they wanted heat, and they showed other kits that you can buy for this in order to get any knowledge of if you had this COVID. Okay. And the other thing is, another thing that we were lied to about was the percentage rate of recover from COVID is 98%. but it was almost like 98.97% of people will recover from COVID. So why are we so worried?
Correct. Well, that was just a part of the control process right there. You've got people so spun up that they're still angry if you're not wearing masks, if you're not being vaccinated. They came out with the vaccine passport. Mm-hmm. There was talk, the Biden administration made a comment that we can't, by the Constitution, do the vaccine passport, but they'll work hand in hand with these private businesses, which will require you to have a passport to come in to watch a concert or to fly on a plane or whatever the case might be. And that's where, as a libertarian, I don't like flip-flopping at all. If I got something wrong, and then I'll make the adjustment to my state, but I've seen enough politicians that'll flip-flop.
Yes.
And with me, I stand by it. I believe a private business should be allowed to do whatever they want, serve whoever they want. It don't bother me, because if I don't like them, if they're not serving someone because of race, skin color, or race, religion, sex, whatever the case might be, I just won't go to that facility. And of course, that restaurant or whatever will go out of business. That's just the way it's going to be.
Yes.
I think the free market's the route to go. My problem that I'm having, though, is if Madison Square Garden starts demanding a vaccine passport and the government stands by and allows it to go through, or if these colleges, which are funded by the taxpayers, are demanding that all their students get the vaccine. I don't agree with that.
Virginia already started it.
I know they have. And Virginia Western, which is a community college here in Roanoke, they've said that they're not going to which is terrific to hear, that the community college is the smart college besides these big, massive colleges, out there. What the problem we're having, though, too, is you have people who will talk out of both sides of their mouth. Yes. So they've got to...
But we're putting them on notice, though.
Well, I hope, but a lot of times what you'll see Republicans will sit there and say, well, we support the Second Amendment, and then they will do everything to damage the Second Amendment. Right. I'll see people, they'll say, well, we support the free market, and, well, if you really support the free market, then you would be opening up things up and allowing a free market to really decide this. That's where I think I'm having my issues, I think, sometimes. So let's get into the military. You wanted to talk about the military. I don't know if you saw a couple of weeks ago, there was a commission that was put together. Okay. And it stated that because, they got rid of the draft in 1973. But one of the members who was on that commission, one of their big fears was you would not have the the demographic of the public. Right. So, and what has happened is, of course, you've had more white people join than other races, and also what you're having is the fleet is not fully manned. So there's actually talk that in a few years, we're not going to have enough people in there to do the jobs which is required. So they've said there's always they're not saying there's going to be a draft, but there's a possibility of a draft.
And as a female sailor veteran, I feel that if that ever occurs, we need to be put on that list, because if we scream equality like some of these military women scream about equality, then your butt needs to be put on the what is that list?
Has selective service, has it went to Congress? Has it went to the Supreme Court?
I have no idea,
because it was going to Supreme Court where someone was suing to have females added where they have to sign up for selected service. Yes, which is like a draft, But of course, we're not having a draft. It's just, but I'm I've never been a proponent of, nor would I ever sit here and sign off on, hey, let's have a draft. But when I look at this stuff, if we're not being manned properly, if we're not, and you've seen the fracturing of our communities because we're not a community anymore. And that, the churches have been broken down courtesy of the government. These communities have been broken down courtesy of the government, because you're seeing this they're wanting to be anti-American, but they want all the stuff that America has brought here to the country, have brought to people. Now, I'm not saying that the country was put together and when we were founded that it was, things were bad. There was things that have happened. But if you go through history of time, a lot of countries were put together. Warring tribes came over and took over this tribe, and you know what I'm saying? So we need to we are in a crossroads where we need to figure out how to get back to being a community. And I think step one, churches. I'm not sitting here being a Bible thumper by any stretch of the imagination.
I am.
But because churches used to be that central location for communities, now it's no longer there. They've broken down our families, Somewhat. I'm not really that pessimistic about a lot of what has happened, because I have seen the other side. And this is the coolest thing about being in America, being an American, is when you piss off the wrong people that don't want to have anything to do with any of the fighting and stuff like that. And it's usually us veterans, I like to say that, you can only push us vets so far until we say, hey, we got to stand up and fight. You are being an enemy in our domestic land of the United States of America. And if you don't believe in that, there's many countries that will openly embrace you. Like, why don't you go to Epstein's Island? Go to a pedophile's island. Go live somewhere else. Leave our country alone. That's kind of how I'm starting to feel. But when I saw that, I don't know if he was a Marine or a soldier, get up and speak in front of the educational board, saying that he is done with listening to his son feeling ashamed that he's white because you're trying to subject the children in our school system to believe that white people are bad. That stuff fires me up more than I can ever imagine, because racism in the 90s to, I would say, 2016 wasn't a thing. Right.
It wasn't a thing at all. Black Lives Matter started with a President Obama, yes. But it was like we giggled when we saw Black Lives Matter. And then for like the summer of all last year, they burnt down all these businesses and stuff like that. That's not an American spirit. That's not us. That's something totally demonic and ridiculous. Now, what I want to share with you and get your opinion on was about the new church, okay? So we have church, right? And I am a Bible thumping person. I love my Jesus, and there's nobody that will take him away from me. But the thing is this new church age and this new stuff that started in the 90s, actually, was the punk rock bands and all this other stuff. That stuff, whatever. I don't want to participate in that church. And as an American, I can go to another church, right? Because we have options, right? So when the lockdown came and we're living in a beautiful state, a state that I truly love, it has gone red, it's gone blue, it's gone red, it's gone blue. So we're all over the place. We're not confident as we once were. But I will say this, when I saw some of the churches here, especially in our little town that we live in, have Black Lives Matter flags on it, what? God doesn't care if you're black. He knows that your life matters. This is a culture that is penetrating every other culture in America to signify power. That's it. It's just a demonic power struggle. But when I saw the church with the new gay flag, I just giggled. Once again, I thought it was funny. And as an American, I can laugh at whatever I want. and you can judge me whatever you want, you know. But I'm still going off the topic of the military. But I just want to get your opinion on how you feel that the new churches are coming in. Now, the old churches, the ones that I only attend one church though, but the church that I attend did follow the rules, did shut down, right? And then we did parking lot services, right? And then we did radio. Then we got into Facebook and, Zoom, not Zoom, but like that kind of like Skyping stuff or whatever.
Right.
Then we opened up again. Then we had every other row. So I feel like the church did go through quite many hoops to keep up and running. But I'm telling you, when I see church members where I attend at, which is First Baptist, I don't care, I'll say what, where I go. I'm not ashamed. First Baptist of downtown. And I saw, everybody, coming together and stuff like that. And it was amazing. It was like, yeah, God is not dead in this land. God is not done with us. Americans, we're not dead. Patriots are not dead. We are alive and well. It's just you don't get to see us on all of these NBC, CBS. You don't get to see us there. So you don't know that we exist. But I'm telling you, when you walk down the street and you see somebody that looks just like you or talks just like you, and you chime in. It's like that instant factor of community coming together. And because it's not so publicized, like that you see on YouTube with everybody, well, media in general, if you don't follow these restrictions or you don't believe that this, and this, we don't want you. But see, in America and Americans, we have a different kind of blood system in our bodies. And our blood system says that you bleed, I bleed. We fight for this flag. We fight for freedom. And we'll stand up. We'll stand up right to the next patriot. And that was something amazing to see when you see these large rallies for President Trump, right? You got to see what Americans get excited about. And it's awesome to know that there's other people that get excited about the red, white, and blue, that we get excited about freedoms, that we get excited. And it was like, it wasn't dead, but it was sleeping. And President Trump just woke us up from that slumber. And here we are. We love the red, white, and blue. We love our families. We love our communities. And one thing I want to say, Brian, was the best love is when Black Rifle Coffee, Vice President Matt, I don't know his last name, the author of Thank You for My Service book, went and gave $32,000 to a place in Texas for a boat. And because a Republican, I don't know if she was a senator or a congresswoman, I don't know what she was, denied the funds for the sheriff's office so they could not get a rescue boat. And then days later, there was a family that was stranded in a lake and they needed help and their boat was sinking. And the sheriffs didn't have boats. So I guess they had to borrow, a boat from the police or something else, right? And that's unsat. So what did veterans do? They stand up. They help their communities. Black Rifle Coffee wrote out a check for $32,000, even though the boat was $28,000. And it was just like, that's America. And you can never kill that. You can never poison it. You can never dilute it. You can't. It's just, that's the community. Reaching out. Okay, I'm going to shut up.
Right. Well, if you want my personal opinion of the churches, I think the churches did a bang-up job taking a knee when they should have been standing up on their feet. Mm-hmm. I would have never seen them. I was shocked and bewildered that they allowed to be silenced like they were. I understand that they were in a position where they couldn't, that they had to follow stupid regulations and laws that were laid down, but these were laws that were unconstitutional, and they should have. I'm not so much worrying so much about them being completely open, but I would have liked to have seen them have more of a split row. Well, I have no issue if it's every other row empty, but there should have been, you needed that. We were in a time when they needed to be there, and
receive the word of God.
Church was not there. And I don't think every church is a good church. I mean, the bad thing we've got here, my brother, he where he works, he was talking to a pastor who comes in, I guess, weekly and talk to the other guys. But he said that here in the States, it's either we have a small church or we have a mega church. We have no in-between churches here. And it would be nice to start seeing, once again, I think it goes back to, because churches, and if you just saw here recently, it finally hit to under 50% that we, people who go to church on a regular basis has dropped. Because the state is, and so many individuals want state to be God. And that's something we got to reject more than anything.
I feel we're rejecting it, but it's not, you don't see the rejection because it's not displayed to you, like how a lot of things are being displayed through social media.
Right.
So you don't get to see the other sides because the other side hasn't caught up to.
But what I'm saying is my church that I went to shutting down. And now they finally reopened, and it's so much better to actually go there and be, even if it's 10 people in the room or in that congregations there for the 11 o'clock service. They do 2 services. They do like a traditional, and then they do an 11 o'clock one, which is more upbeat.
Yeah,
that you were talking about. And I don't have an issue. I'll do either one, but you need to be around people. And the churches should have followed. But once again, if you look at government, and when the churches used to have hospitals that would help poor people with medical bills and issues that pertain to that, then the government comes along and says, no, you can't do that. That you're now going to go through us, and you're going to have to, and we have to, the state is now the place. The churches aren't paying for the poor folks. That's why they get tax break. And I have no issues with the churches not having to pay taxes. But if they're not having to pay taxes, they should be doing exactly what a church is supposed to be doing.
Yes.
Going out there and not preaching the word and not opening up, helping people, giving them hope and inspiration.
Right.
I
totally agree. Okay, so I'm trying to steer it back to the military.
Yeah.
So can you share with us, Brian, what your experience being in the military was? What it was like? Can you give us 3 good, positive, happy things that you took away from the actual military career that you had?
Well, positive things for me during my 6 years, I got to meet some of the most, some great guys. I was in the sub force, of course, so it's going to be more populated. At that time, females had not been integrated into the sub force.
Okay.
And so on sub base up there in New London, even on the base, there was a handful of females compared to male. But overall, I met a whole lot of good people, and you got to learn from some of the higher-ups who had been your LPO or your CPO. Even if they weren't in my division, there was a guy named Tolles, and he was in he was with the ANAV, like navigation, and when meeting him, he became a chief before he got off the boat on the Philly. And but Tolles, I remember he went and he got into the navigators. We pulled into port for like 2 days, and the nav wanted them to paint the sail.
Oh wow!
And he went and attacked. Well, he didn't attack the nav, but he told him, he's like, these guys get to be here for 2 days, and you're going to make them stay on the boat painting instead of being home with their family. And, you know, he let them know. Now, did it change anything? Absolutely not. They still had to paint the cell. But be it here or there, he went and told him, he stood up for his guys. And so in turn, when I see people like that, I understand sometimes you can try to stand up for your guys and you're only going to go so far. But just by him taking that opportunity to do that, just going there and letting him know on behalf of his guys, I was so like, wow, it made me gain more respect for the guy, you know?
Yes.
But like I said, the leadership people that I met, I saw some bad leaders too.
Yeah.
And, but you were able to meet some great people. You get to see the world that pretty much you would never get to see. Now, granted, we don't get to go out there and just tour the place, but for the most lot, especially in 2001, before 9/11, we really got to see La Maddalena, Italy, Rota, Spain, Toulon, France. I can't remember which port it was in Turkey, but like when you talked about Crete, we pulled into Crete in 2003, but now we're at war. It's pretty much you go over there, you might have a dinner, and then you're back on the boat.
Oh, wow.
There was not much touring over there. But that's really, I went into the service just to...
How old were you?
24 when I went in. I turned 25 right after I got out of basic training. I was in A school.
Oh, wow.
And so I was an older guy, which not by any stretch an old man, but compared to an 18-year-old, I could still see the age difference,
Maturity level?
Yeah, absolutely. I overall I enjoyed it. I have no complaints with it, and because of when I got out in 2006, I started to look at the foreign policy, and I started to question the foreign policy. And then in 2008, when the Republicans nominated John McCain, which I have no use for, I voted for Sarah. I know Sarah Palin was his running mate, but I had enough respect for her that I voted for her. But then when I really did look at the foreign policy, that's what made me just leave the Republican Party in general. And look, I don't find... it upsets me that people will tell me how much they hate government, how government can't do something, they don't trust any politician, and then I say, well, what about this candidate? And they'll say, well, he can't win, she can't win. Well, but so what are you going to do? I'm going to go vote for the exact same people that I was just calling a liar, a cheater, a thief, and that's frustrating to me. Yeah. It's real frustrating to me. But they also rigged the game. So then you can have good candidates show up. Look at it. That's a talking point. If they're in a position to, they'll say, your guy. If they meet someone who they know they're voting for the independent candidate or the Libertarian or whoever, they will say, that guy can't win, so you ought to vote for him, this individual this time. That's a talking point, and that's sad. That's...
I want to steer back to your military.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you share with your audience here and me one of the favorite places that you actually pulled into port? And what did you do? Or did you learn anything? Too?
Well, no. I liked Rota, Spain was great. And then I liked La Maddalena, Italy. And I tell you, Gibraltar, which what was that? Aren't they part of the UK? Aren't they like a territory of the UK, correct?
I think so, yes.
So that was really interesting, going up that mountain and seeing where they had put in the cannons.
Right.
So anyone trying to come through, they would get shot with the cannons, And that was very interesting. And then they also had the airport. Remember there was did you ever go there? I assume you went there? Okay, so you had the runway. You go across the runway and you're in Spain.
Right.
So, what about yourself?
Okay, so I joined the Navy at 17. I was one of those people right after high school. I wanted to join since I was 9 years old. And the only reason I wanted to join the Navy than any other branches, because I wanted to experience different cultures and stuff like that. And I always got to hear stories. So my background is my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father, my uncle, both my cousins we're all in the service. That was our thing, right? We believe in freedom and we believe in America, and I will always be a patriot because of my service or whatnot, right? But I do understand that a lot of people that are in the military have a bad experience, but I also want to let you know that not everybody has a bad experience. I had a lot of growing up to do, and the Navy, will punch you right in the face to make you grow up quicker kind of deal. Not literally, just figuratively. And the thing that I joined out of compassion and love and patriotism, and it was not like a family accomplishment or whatnot, but it was family pride kind of deal, right? Mm-hmm. And I joined as the first female of my family to ever have joined, which is kind of cool, being the firstie, right? So at 17, I was in the JROTC program, and I did that 4 years of high school. And I really got the history of the Navy versus the history of war and history of America and all this other stuff. And it kind of opened up my eyes to some of the truths that are actually what they were, because in JROTC, we actually had veterans come in and talk to us about their service. So that just lit my fire even more to join, right? And it was also, I had a great mentor. He was a Marine, Master Sergeant Patterson. He, I guess, retired and now lives in Florida. But this man was so powerful, so amazing, so full of life and great leadership and no filters. So I grew up with a father and a grandpa and an uncle and my cousins. They didn't have filters either. So therefore, it was tagged onto me, right? Mm-hmm. To have no filters, just to tell the truth all the time. Who cares if nobody likes you or likes you for, they'll always say that, if you don't want the truth, don't go to her, And so I joined the Navy at 17. And I went through boot camp, and I made amazing people just in boot camp. And I became like besties with this girl, Surgenton. Her name was Adrienne Surgenton, and she was 17 as well. And just had her birthday right after graduation. And we wanted to be stationed in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. We wanted to get far away from the East Coast, right? And I don't know if this was a thing when you were in the service. Well, actually, you came after me, so it should still been in. Was the fact that you had 3 options called a wish list of where you would like to be placed at. And mine was Greece, Hawaii, and Alaska. I really wanted to be in any of those areas, right? Not because it was so far away from the state of Virginia, but it was just somewhere, ooh la la, neat, right? So we both got stationed, Adrienne Surgenton and I got stationed in Mayport, Florida, which was awesome. And then we found out we weren't stationed on a ship, we were stationed on shore duty, and we were both very bummed because the purpose of joining the Navy was we wanted to see the world, we wanted to experience new culture, we wanted to make new friends, we wanted to see what things were like outside of the East Coast. And so we were talking back and forth, right? Because being in ROTC for 4 years in high school, we had an option. Well, actually, it was just given to us. We did not have to be an E1 or an E2. We were automatically advanced to E3. And I felt like that was really awesome and kind of like a step up or an extra edge on us. Because when we came to our first duty stations, we were leaders already, regardless if we had been leaders at all prior to that. And we went to our Navy schools after boot camp and stuff like that. And we got to go home and be with our families and then go to our duty station. Well, long and behold, 2 other people from our boot camp was with us. And we had no idea that we even went to boot camp with them, because technically you do know everybody in boot camp, but not really know them, right?
Right.
And the fact was, these other people was like, dude, I didn't even know you were there. Man, I'm not good at observation as I thought I was. But we all were stationed. And when I say all, it was all females. So it was 12 females came to Harbor Ops, Mayport, Florida. And it was a shit show from the very beginning. We were stationed with boats and mates. I don't know, Brian, if you even know. I don't even know if you have boats and mates on a submarine. Do you? Okay, so boats and mates are the roughest people in the Navy. They're the toughest. They are the ones that are probably the most abused when it comes to actual physical work, like labor. And they are probably one of the strongest ones other than the engineering people and the electricians. Can't get far from the electricians, right, Brian?
Right.
So when I went to shore duty, Serge and I were already automatically enrolled in college, regardless if we wanted to go or not. It was a program that was designed for E3s and above to have a more well-rounded sailor. That was the thing that I learned in the Navy on month 1, day 1, hour 1, that they want more well-rounded individuals. Mm-hmm. Now, when I first joined the military, it was never a female or male thing. It was a sailor thing. There was no sex or sexuality when I was in. We didn't talk about that. We talked about getting advanced in rank. We talked about getting, I don't know what the submarines have, but ships have surface and air warfare pins.
Dolphins.
Okay, so you had dolphins.
Uh-huh.
So when high schoolers, because we had to be taught this now, high schoolers coming into the military, we wanted to be the best because all of us were patriots because we didn't know anything else, So my first week of college with Serge was very interesting, and we learned a lot of stuff. And I was like, I looked at her, I go, I think I've been lied to my whole entire life when it comes to education. And I really didn't like college because I really felt that it was so pessimistic and so dark and so angry and all of this stuff, right? And It was just like, I don't want to buy a book because the professor wrote it. Can I borrow your copy? And Serge and I were like that. We would take classes together, and one of us would buy a book, and then we would share because it was so ridiculously priced. Now it's probably like $200. Back in the day, it was only $100.
Right.
And when you're a sailor, you're not making that much either because we're only E3s. So our very first duty station was very sexist. But I grew up with men, so sexist wasn't an issue for me. I know that sounds crazy and ridiculous, but it wasn't. And I'll share with you why. I was raised to respect men. Do not treat them as less or I have more value than them. What I was raised was men and women are not equal, but we work together. And when I say we're not equal is I can't do half the stuff Brian can do with the strength and stuff like that, but I can try. It might take 3 of me to do what one Brian can do, And one thing that I really enjoyed in the service was when you couldn't do something, Brian, all you had to do was just ask another shipmate and they'll help you.
Right.
And it wasn't a big deal. Now, when it came to the women, when we had to do stuff, they were like, why is there always 4 women trying to do something? Because not all of us are strong like you, Brian, And, but it was like, I felt that my service, even though now my lieutenant from Harbor Ops was kicked out of the Navy for sexual harassment.
Uh-huh.
My boatswain mate, which was the first class petty officer, E6, went to captain's mast for writing things on a chalkboard saying how useless females were. And they're just trying to make us feel uncomfortable as whatever. But then I remembered something happened. There was a disaster that happened in Mayport. Tracy told me after 20 years I can talk about things. There's like a liability.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so we're going to say half of the story because I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble with the Navy. But there was a big disaster that happened. And all the females, because we know how to work together, right? In the aspect because we're not as strong as men, and it takes more of us to do the same job. And I will admit that right now, right here. We worked not 12 hours, 16-hour shift to clean up this oil spill that happened in Mayport. Not one of us complained. Not one of us female. Because it was in that moment we were equal to the men.
Right.
And that was the turning point. Because we were trying to say, we're not here for equality or equal rights and all this other shenanigans that you hear today. We just want to be here. That's it. You know, we want to serve the country like you're serving it. And we are patriots. We want to do this. And I just remember this first class petty officer was like, you know, well, I guess I wasn't Chef LiLi then, but we'll say my name now so you know who it is. Chef LiLi, you are working almost 18 hours now. You need to go home. You need to take a shower. You need to go to rest. And I go, well, do you think the wildlife has that option? And he was like, what? You know, he wasn't expecting a person that is literally 6 times smaller than he is. Okay. I was 96 pounds when I was in the Navy, to tell him that I'm going to work to clean off all this wildlife. So when an oil spill happens, wildlife gets damaged, obviously. And I was part of the team to clean up the wildlife. And then I was on a part of the team to actually clean up the debris and the oil.
Right.
And it was such a fascinating job. It was so much labor. But then it became, and then now I understand what it actually really means, labor of love, what that actually means. You know, I got to see firsthand how a team assembles, how we do all these oil spills, and how we, you know, who is a good communicator, who isn't, who's a good leader and who isn't. And I found out that I was a good leader. We were getting stuff done. I don't care if it was 2:30 in the morning. I had everybody, you know, lined up. We're doing everything in shifts. You need to take a break. You need this. You need that, you know. And it was so magical in the aspect that, okay, I'm only an E3 and I'm telling a chief petty officer, which is an E8 or E7 or an E9, what to do, and they're doing it.
Right.
You know, that was an interesting thing. And what I learned from leadership is the less asshole you are, the better it is. The more asshole you are, the more resentment the people are going to have. Mm-hmm. And I do see different leadership styles, female versus male. Now, my husband is a retired Army, and I told this to my husband's face. He's the love of my life. I worship the ground that this man walks on. He is an asshole in the United States Army. I would have been one of those people that would have probably gone to court-martial and get kicked out of the Army, because there was no way I would tolerate my husband talking to me the way I saw him talk to his soldiers. I was like, who does that? Why is your leadership so strong like that? And he's like, that's how things get done in the Army. And I was like, okay, glad I didn't join the Army. You know, I couldn't handle that. And then the Navy also trained me how to be a firefighter. Did you get to go to fire school? Okay.
Oh yeah. You're still going to have we would always go and train for like if the boat started to bring on water.
Yeah, so no, I was never on a sub, so I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
Well, I didn't know if they'd ever do that on the same. If they would do that on a surface ship.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's still going to be times where you might get a hole, and then we do firefighting school. We constantly go up there they would simulate a fire, and we'd have to hook up.
That's so cool.
And do all that stuff. Yeah.
So I was doing the training for the firefighting, and I had 2 teams. I was in charge of 12 women, and the man was charged with 16 men in charge of. And we were always encouraged for competition. And that's one thing, that's a key to life, is to become competitive. You always want to be competitive. And not everybody deserves a trophy, in life. Not everybody deserves, ribbons on their chest and stuff. Those are the things you earn because you've been through something, right?
Right.
So I was training, and we were doing the fire training. Okay, so there's 2 worries on a ship. I don't know anything about a sub, so I'm only going to talk about ships. That's fire and that's flooding. Those are the 2 huge things. And we, Serge and I, studied hardcore about fire safety versus flooding and all this pipes bursting and all this other stuff, right? We're not engineers, okay? We are just sailors. Every single sailor should know how to stop a leak. Every single sailor should know how to stop a fire. That's just basic.
Right.
And so we went through this training. My team beat the boys by 36 seconds to stop flooding. So when you had a flood and all the water that came into the training facility in this little capsule that you were in, you had to scoop it up with coffee cans to get it out. That was your punishment for being the loser, right? So us females, and I go, hey, this is what we studied. You gotta trust us just this one time. You don't have to trust us ever again, but just this one time, please trust us when we say what we're doing. And we only had literally, I think it was 5 inches of water. We stopped the water from rising. The men squad team, right? The 16 men that we were training with had 2.5 feet of water, and they stopped everything.
Right.
And I just thought that we walked high that day. Like, yeah, what's up? Girls won, boys drool, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, we were always in competition. Then in the United States Navy, where I was at in Mayport in Harbor Ops, we had to learn knots and stuff like that because that's what the boatsmates did. And I never knew how important it is to know how to do certain kind of knots, because on a ship we have knots to hold in other boats. They're on boats, and then we have roped, tying so many things, right? And I don't know how to describe, but a ship moves, okay? We move in the water, but then you got to think, not all water is flat, okay? And when you're doing replenishment, which is another ship pulling side of you, right beside of you, giving you supplies and stuff like that, right? I don't know, you had that with the sub, right?
Yeah, we did.
That's super
did that
cool.
One time. Mm-hmm.
So what happened was, we were learning how to make knots while moving. And what is that? Okay, so Harbor Ops has small little craft boats. And the person that trains us was a first-class petty officer, and his only job was to make our jobs harder, okay? That was his only purpose. Okay, so I had a father that was like that, so therefore I never took anything he did personally. So what he did was he would make the water so full of waves that it was hard to make knots. It was hard to, keep from falling out of your air or your little boat craft thing. And he just made all of us females that much better. Mm-hmm. And it was, I know how to tie a knot in my sleep. That's how bad the training was, constantly. What kind of knot would that be? When would you do this? And all this other stuff, right? So my first year has gone and passed. Now, I lost my best friends in a car accident from the Firestone, Bridgestone, or whatever it's called, tire treads coming apart. This was before the USS Cole bombing. Do you remember the USS Cole bombing?
Oh, yeah, because I was just got to sub school. Okay.
So this was before that. And I buried my best friend, and it was really hard for me because this is the friend that I was going to college with, Adrian. So we went to college, and then after she passed away, everything just lost meaning to me for a hot minute. And it was really, I mean, I took it to heart. I mean, Serge and I were inseparable. We did, and we had duty days. Brian, can you tell us what duty days are?
Yeah, it's where you're going to be on the boat 24 hours, standing post, either gate guard or officer of the deck, or you'll be below decks for the submarine. And that below decks is just pretty much you're reading the gauges, checking the bilges, making sure that, you know, what the level of the water is down there. And that was our duty days. And then if there was any cleanup or anything that we had to do, we would do.
Yeah. So I was on a duty day with Serge, and she just made everything that much more fun. And we had kind of like the same upbringing, very strict upbringing, very Christian upbringing, very patriot upbringing, and it was kind of like she was my twin. But so I buried my twin. She's not my twin. I'm just saying that that's how close we were. And from there, the Navy took a whole different meaning. I lost my head competitor, right? And we both made both made third class together. Okay. We both made it on the first time together. That never happened. Or so we were told back in the day. A third class petty officer is one chevron on your arm, and you feel like you're a big shot, right? Until the responsibilities come punching you in the face, then you're like, oh, maybe I don't want this anymore. But so we both made petty officer third class, and then she passed on, and then life just took a whole different route. I had, he was a second class petty officer. His name was Boatswain Mate Rosenberg. Now, I don't know what island he was from, but I'm telling you, this man could literally heal anybody in the world. He was such an amazing human being, and I'm still that's how amazing he is. I'm still in touch with him today. And I've been out. Did he
stay in?
Yeah, he became a senior chief. So he rose up all the way from a second class to a senior chief.
Wow. Okay.
But he retired, though. He did the whole 9 yards. And so he really taught me a lot of good things, and he helped me through Serge's passing, and then Golson passed away as well. So it was like all this death was happening right around. And then I told Petty Officer Rosenberg I want to relinquish my shore duty, and I want to go to a ship. And so he put me on the USS John F. Kennedy for 2 weeks to give me an introduction course to see if I even would like it on an aircraft carrier. I've never heard of this program ever. Ever. I've never heard of any shore duty person could do that for 2 weeks. But, you know, I didn't care. I wanted to try it. And I came back and I went right to him and I was crying. I was like, that's why I joined the Navy. That is what I want. I want it so bad. And he's like, you're my best petty officer. I don't want to lose you. I really thought you were going to come back and say you didn't like it, and, you know, you're going to stay here and all this other stuff, right? And I was like, no, it's everything that you said. And then once the boat was rocking and stuff like that, and I could tie a knot when we were rocking back and forth and all this other stuff, and they were so impressed with me, and I just went on and on and on, right? And so literally that month, the end of the month, I was stationed on the USS John F. Kennedy permanently. And it was absolutely amazing. I could never, oh my God, the moment I walked in there, I had a sea bag, right? We just changed the uniforms from dungarees to a pantsuit thingy looking.
Utilities.
Right? Yeah. I felt like Hillary Clinton in those. You can see cankles every day and all this other stuff. It's horrible. So anyway, I report to the John F. Kennedy, and because I was a third class petty officer, I had a rate, and I was in supply, and it was not even 2 months after that. They saw my abilities. They saw that I was gung-ho. Brian, tell us what gung-ho means.
Well, it means you're ready to go. You're into it.
112% into it.
Right.
Okay, so we were going, I was gung-ho. I got my surface warfare pen started when we went to deployment. Now, this is before September 11th. So I went down, my very first port ever was St. Martin. Have you been there, Brian?
Where's that? St. Martin. Where's that at?
Oh, schmoly. It's by, like Florida Keys area.
No.
It's not by Cuba or anything.
I can't remember. There was one spot that we went in Puerto Rico, and I don't remember what that was called, but they were closing that base down.
Really?
We went down there. We pulled into port. We went, we were only there for one night, so we didn't even get to go outside off the base. We went to like the base lounge or bar, and that was the end of it.
Okay. So, all right, so I'm going to my first port, right? You got to think I'm 18, I'm beautiful, I'm young, and I'm happy, and all this other stuff, right? And then it hits me. Adrian Surgenton isn't with me. And I had a sad moment. And I remember, I don't know if Brian, if you remember Kodak instant camera, those little box cameras.
The disposable camera?
Yes, that's what it's called. Yeah, okay. So I was so sad, and I was sitting on the beach, and I wanted to take this pretty picture, right? And I was like, Serge, I wish you were here with me, man. I miss you, girl. You're my girl. So I sat here on like this weird bench, and Serge, I said, Lord, I just want to take a picture, and I want it to be so remarkable. This one photo I took has won 3 photography awards, and the caption of the picture is called "For My Surge," right? And it's literally for Surgenton, Adrian Surgenton, that passed away. But it was like, everybody was like, oh my gosh, this has so much deep meaning and all this other stuff. And I was like, not really, just my best friend, Right. And so, moving on, I had so many opportunities. I got qualified in every single weapon that was on the USS John F. Kennedy. I was the first female to ever have that title. And then literally within 6 months, there was about maybe 30 other girls that did it. So that was really awesome. I guess I inspired other people to learn about firearms and all the different weaponry that we have on the USS John F. Kennedy, which is now decommissioned in 2007. I don't know if it's a museum up north or not. I heard about it, but I don't know if it still is, or they just, cut it up and whatever. So I went on my deployment. This is literally right after we saw the towers fall. There's a thing before September 11th was called Fleet Week. Brian, have you ever participated in Fleet Week?
No.
Okay, so Fleet Week is when all these different militaries all over the world come together, and basically what they do is hang out. We play soccer, we box, we do all these different things as competitive, and whoever gets bragging rights, usually Japan or America, we win. But Germany won the soccer match this year, and but it was really fun. We were in New York City. We were treated like, oh my gosh, so lovingly. It was such a beautiful experience to be a part of Fleet Week. Everybody got to see tours of our ship and tours of the German ships, and I think the Japanese were there kind of like in the mid to the end of Fleet Week. Mm-hmm. And we just got to explore everybody and just share the different cultures. I remember that's the time when Pearl Harbor came out, the movie with Ben Affleck. Okay. And we got to see it for free. I got free cinnamon rolls. I got free eggs. I got free celery. I got free shoes. I mean, they were just giving stuff away. Now, this is prior to September 11th of 2001, okay? So I'm kind of an old person, too. But it was so exciting to be a part of Fleet Week. And, I mean, that was my second boxing match for my ship, and it was awesome. I won, and so it was just a great experience to be a part of that. I was also on the Navy soccer team for my ship as well. That was really, really fun. So I got to do a lot of athletic stuff as well as, educational stuff and learning about the Navy. So my favorite port I ever hit was the island of Crete, which is off of the country Greece.
Right.
And, oh, Brian, I cannot imagine what it must be like now. But the people there were so loving and caring. I got a mentorship where a family took me in. And what they did was they showed me how the Greeks cook. And I got to dance under their lights. And you get to see the fishermen in their tiny, tiny little boats. And you just got to see all the community. And it was just like, I never seen a community so together, Right. And it was really cool. I was really, really just amazed by that little island. And we went to Italy. I went to Turkey. I went to Bahrain, Dubai, Egypt. I went to all of those places. And I have to say, Portugal, that the island of Crete was my actual favorite place. And just I told Julio, that's my husband, that would be the only place I would ever want to take him that's outside of the United States, would be the island of Crete. But once again, I got to do a lot of different things in the military. And I think the key to having a good military career, Brian, you can back me up if you think this is right, is to have an open mind, and you got to understand leadership is something that is developed. You're not a born leader. I don't believe in that shenanigans at all. It's a constant learning and having that open mind to learn and to understand that there is several ways of getting a job done. And it's not bad, to listen to other people that work for you to say, hey, this works for us better to do it this way. Okay, then do it that way. Be open-minded to say that your working people know what they're doing because they've been doing it forever and ever and ever and ever. So they have a certain way, right? And right. I feel like a good leader will say, okay, we'll try it that way. I think you can learn lead.
I definitely agree that you can learn leadership, but I also believe that there's some people that are their personality. They might not. It's not refined. So when they go in there and they see good leaders, mm-hmm. they can start mimicking. Just like just humans. I mean, we learn how to walk and talk and do things because mm-hmm. we watch other people.
Yeah.
And in turn, I think to see a good lead. I mean, if you're a bad leader. You can see the best leaders in the world, and you won't. You're not going to be a good leader.
Well, I think President Trump was a really good leader. I really do. I feel that way. I don't think that that our president that we have now has a desire to be a leader, and it's just you can just see it. Like the G7, when they had that meeting with the Russian president and creepy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't feel that. But okay, moving on. So I got to do a lot of different things in the Navy versus what other people may have had an option to do. I did security for the Navy, and then I did other things as well. And it was just because I had an open mind. And I was always excited because every single day was something new. And if it wasn't something new, then there was drama. And then you had all that other stuff, right? But it was like there was days that you actually physically learned something. Like I learned about engineering. And that's when, did you get your, what did you call your dolphins? Did you get that?
Oh, yeah. You have to get them on the sub.
Yeah.
Anybody that comes onto the boat has to get them.
Can you tell us what it is?
Well, it's
like how you earn it.
Well, you just have to learn every aspect of the sub. If it's forward ship back to the aft, And then you have to learn about the nuclear power. You have to learn about like the where the fire, the 1MCs, the fire extinguishers. You have to be able to point stuff out. So if you need a call, make a call, to report it. You have to do things like that.
Now, you also had frame numbers, right?
Yes, there was. I mean, and that was, really knew that when it came to, like, when I had the supply lockers, and then that's how you would hunt them down, That's because a lot of our lockers, because the subs are small, they're going to be we have some forward, and then there's some in the back, and aft of the ship, but some of the lockers we had were up in, actually, individuals.
Now, on a sub, were you allowed to go everywhere?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
On the ship, you're not allowed to go everywhere. Now, certain rates are like if you did on an aircraft carrier, people have different kinds of t-shirt colors. Each color meant something different. Like purple was for fueling, and that's their job. Right. Like that's what they do. They fuel the airplanes, or they fuel whatever equipment that needs fuel, and they know like everything there is to know about fuel, right? And then there's people that are in the yellow shirts. They were called the air boss or air crew, and they told the airplanes where to park. They told them when to leave the aircraft carrier. They assisted the pilots in everything about landing and moving the aircraft. So there's people with very specific jobs, right?
Right.
And I was very lucky and honored to be like for I think it was 2 weeks I was on the flight deck working with the mail, and when we get things, because the helicopters brings us mail, and there is things other ships will bring us supplies as well if we're out for deployment and stuff like that. But I wanted to share with you about 9/11 a little bit, because I was actually physically there in the ports. So we had Fleet Week, which was in August, and then September 11th happened, which is literally like 2 weeks later after we left. That happened. And we were still, we were not back in Florida when this happened. We were like almost passing Virginia, and we get this call on we call it the 1MC, which is the radio system that surrounds the whole entire ship, so you can hear what the captain of the boat is saying to us. And he basically calm as a cucumber. I love my CO. I don't care what anybody said. He was a good guy. And I want before I get into that story, I want Brian to tell us what he felt on September 11th.
I had no feeling of it because of the fact of we were underway, and so the only thing that I had was I was asleep in the back of the Escade Shack, the storekeeper's supply room, and we were lucky because on the Philly it had a bigger shack, and we were able to actually go to the back and lay down, and I was asleep, and someone woke me up and stated that there had been a attack on the World Trade Center, and the guy told me to invest into stocks, and I said, why? And he's like, well, the World Trade Centers fell, and so forth. So I didn't understand that. I was still dazed and confused from waking up, and the only thing that we ever got to see was the quarter size of we saw a quarter size of the World Trade Centers being the first plane, I guess, coming in and blowing up. And after that, we got messages stating what President Bush had said to his address to the nation. We heard, we read that. We saw that little quarter-size thing. So then the next thing is we were about to pull into another port, and I cannot remember which one it was, but I remember Entertainment Television that had said that this place was like one party island out there, but this had been a party deployment the entire time. So when they said, all right, you're going to have to stay out there, we're now going to be waiting on the Seawolf to relieve us, and we just spun around in a circle for 30 days. And then we went back home to Groton, Connecticut. But for that time, there was no real. It was strange. I didn't get the sense to have that experience. By the time I got back to the States, you know, you had the flags and you had to support your troops everywhere. The little yellow ribbons, magnets on the back of everyone's car. You know, but it was for the most part. Like I said, even now it's strange because I didn't get to experience everyone cheering President Bush walking out to the mound to throw out a baseball at New York Yankees, so in turn I couldn't hear it, so I couldn't experience. I didn't experience it, so it's hard for me because then by the time I got back, let's see, that's 2001, still 2001. You know, it's not many more months later. Mm-hmm. We're calling President Bush a devil and a Nazi, and we can have our arguments about. We can definitely have our arguments about, like I said, once again, foreign policy. But I don't want to go into that, you know, because I really do. I mean, I do have my biggest, big problems with the foreign policy we have. But no, that was how I felt. I didn't feel nothing.
Wow.
I mean, it sucked. I mean,
yeah.
I knew there was a big moment, but I guess it'd been like if I told you Mike Tyson just punched out when he punched Leonard Spinks out in 41 seconds. You weren't there. You weren't watching it. You know, it's like, wow.
That's okay.
That was impressive, I guess. You know.
So for me, September 11th was totally like surreal. It was a moment that I saw every single sailor on my ship come together. We don't care about your sexuality. We don't care about your sex. We don't care about your religion. We don't care about anything. You are a United States sailor today. So we had to shut down our ship, which is for emergencies, and our best time was like 2 minutes. That's like 5,000 people in one area, shut down every single door and window and everything that you could think of. We did it in less than 60 seconds. That was our best time ever. And we were on high alert, and we were heading to New York City. So we were going up, you know, the coast and everything like that. I did not see any Coast Guards, but they said the Coast Guards were with us, so I thought that was pretty cool. Thank you, Coast Guard. We love you. And it was just the fact that everybody came together because, first of all, we didn't know what had happened. We saw some clips of the towers falling, but when we saw it, we thought it was a movie. We didn't know that that was live television because we never get live TV. That's too awesome. And so we got a live feed. And I don't remember what broadcast. I don't know if it was Fox or, you know, any other, you know, places that we get news or anything like that. But it was just a simple fact that we didn't believe that it was real. We thought it was a movie. And then our CO, which is our commanding officer, comes on the 1MC and tells us what's happening. We're leaving. We're going up to New York right now, yada, yada. And everything was just like that. I just got a cat claw. Hold on. I've been cat clawed. All right. So, we went up there to New York and stuff like that, and our boat is just waiting. We didn't know what we were waiting for, though. So we were told very limited amount of information, which is at that time his leadership style. That was our CO's leadership. And then once everything calmed down and we were actually in the harbor of New York, he told us more information. And then, you know, he had an open dialogue a little bit, and it was a very interesting time. And it was a lot happening all at one time. And we didn't know, was the Pentagon hit, you know, and we have the largest military Navy base in Norfolk, Virginia. And I know that a lot of people were probably in Norfolk, holy moly, we need to be on high alert because they're probably going to attack us like they could have attacked us like they did in Hawaii. And that was December 6th No, was it December 7th?
December 7th.
Yeah, December 7th of 1941 was when Pearl Harbor was attacked. The USS Arizona sunk to the bottom of the ocean. And the thing was I know that was the mind frame of what was happening and stuff. It was that high. So we heard that the towers, now this is what we heard as the Navy people, that it was bombed and then the planes hit it. So we knew that the bombs were happening, and so I felt like the Navy RCO told us the truth from the beginning. And then when I come back to the States, it's a whole different story. And I'm like, what? Okay. I still believe my CO over anybody. But so September 11th happened. Everything changed in the security realm. And when I say the security realm, we looked at everybody a little bit sideways before we shook our hands and to do any business. I had to go on to full deployment right after September 11th. Our ship was getting some new technology stuff, and I got a kitty eating my hair. Kitty? Yes, baby. So we are, getting ready to deploy, and it was, everybody's mindset was America first. How dare you hit our homeland, and, patriots will rise, and, America is strong. We are a strong nation. How dare you, try to, who are you to bully us kind of deal, even though we are the bully. Brian and I have the same feelings about international encounters, I should say. We have the same ideas.
Right.
Or beliefs. I like that better. So, September 11th happens. I get more training and I move up, and I was like, I really want the Navy to be my career. I really want, I'd rather have the Navy as my family than versus a personal family at this moment. And I didn't know anything about Bush. We didn't do politics in my area. So I was very ignorant to what was happening. And because I was on a deployment, we don't get the news like Fox News or CBS or NBC or any of those, right? We didn't have that option.
Right.
And Brian's trying to hold the kitty back. Hold him. Yes, you're a good boy. It's a boy, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What is your kitty's name?
McCartney. Mac.
Mac is just being so cool, but between Dad and me here, so cool. So anyway, going into the military and being able to do some of the things that I was able to do, you had to have an open mind, a good heart, and you couldn't take things that were negative too hard or too serious. And if you did, then you would fall into, the Navy sucks category, right? And I never had that kind of attitude because my father, raised me to be open-minded. He raised me to be obedient to, your leadership. You got to trust in them a little bit, And I learned a lot in the military, and I don't think I would be half the person that I am now if it wasn't for my time in the service. And I always recommend females, you hear me, females, to join the military. Just do it for 4 years. And then you'll figure things out that you would never have figured out if you were in college. And I truly believe that. And I've done my college. Brian, you've done college too, right?
Correct.
So I feel that the college experience, yes, it's cool and all, but being in the military is cooler and you get more experiences. Now, yes, there is a high rate in the military of sexual assault. And I want to talk about that. I shared with Brian beforehand, I was sexually assaulted while I was in the United States Navy. And it changed me like it would change anybody. Any kind of trauma changes you, right? You accept it and you move on, or you don't accept it and you don't move on from it. And because the way I was raised, I moved on and I accept that it was part of life, and not part of life, it was part of my life. and I had to move on. And sexual assault is extremely not talked about. Now, in the 2014 time, 2015, and right before President Trump came into office, women were coming out and talking about MST, which is military sexual trauma, and they were focusing on nonprofit organizations. Mac is playing with a rock right now. It's so cute. So what happened was learning about other females that were in the Marine Corps all the way to the Air Force and, the Army, were actually suffered from sexual assault as I have. And to see how all of us dealt with it and overcome it was more miraculous than even knowing that this was a problem in the military. Now, the percentage, I don't know. I don't know what the percentage is if you join the military and you get sexually assaulted. I don't know what it is, and I don't want to know what it is. I don't want to focus on that. What I want to focus on was the healing process and knowing that you have sisters in arms that have been in your shoes. And then what I got a weird wake-up call was there was thousands upon thousands upon thousands of men getting sexually assaulted in the military as well. And when I heard that, my jaw just dropped to the floor, Brian. I was like, what in the Sam is happening here, And I didn't even know it was a thing, Brian, because when I think of men in the military, I think of them super duper strong, like the guys from Black Rifle Coffee Company. We love you guys. And that was just, my mentality thought of that. And I dealt with sexual assault in probably the worst way to deal with it, because I really wanted to become a first-class petty officer. That was in E6, right?
Right.
E6? Okay. I had to ask Brian because we were both in the Navy. I had to think about it. So I wanted to become a first-class petty officer, and I was really focused on that. And I really wanted to still, to this day, make the Navy a full-time career for me. Brian, did you want the Navy to be a full-time career to you, or?
Yeah, I was playing it by ear, and then when I went in the college that I went to, which was National Business College, because I went into college prior to going into the service.
Smart.
Well, come to find out, the accreditation that they had compared to the accreditation to go to OCS was not the number. It was not the proper accreditation, so I could not go to OCS. And in turn, that was like a Hail Mary that I threw. Like, if I could go to OCS, I might have stayed. I might have re-enlisted at least for a time. But I left the Navy pretty angry.
Oh.
So, I enjoyed my time. I pluck a hair on my head. That's how close I was to going to Iraq during when it was hot in 2004, 2005. And I did not like the leadership that was on shore duty. I did not like the chiefs, the senior chief, the chief. I was not impressed with them. And
now, are you in contact with anybody that was in your service time?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
I have about two people. I've got Facebook friends, but actually speak to occasionally or on a regular basis, it's two people.
That's super cool. I'm a third, but we weren't in at the same time. Well, yeah, we were, but we just never met in the Navy. Oh, and let me tell you, this is a thing that I get from civilians. Oh, my son was in the Navy. Did you know him? There is literally millions upon millions of sailors in the Navy, as well as every other branch of the service.
Right.
But I just thought that was funny. I used to get that. Oh my gosh, my daughter is in the Navy. Da 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 da. So I didn't mean to soften the sexual assault. I didn't mean to do that. But I will go back into it just a little bit here. So I dealt with sexual assault differently than I dealt with sexual harassment. Okay, so sexual harassment was, that exists. The thing was,
what do you think how should we do this? We can pretend that men and women we put them in. There's a role for females in the military. There's a role obviously for men in the military. Everyone if they want to go serve. Mm-hmm. How do we prevent something such as that? I mean, obviously it's easier said than done, but it's almost like, you know, there's going to be urges that a man and a female, you know, they're out to sea, or they're away from their
close quarters.
Family. Yes, or close quarters. And what are some, like, I think what I'm seeing now with the military, it's not being beneficial to making a strong military. I don't know, but at the same time, it's not like I want to downplay like anyone being harassed. Like we and we'll go into this at another time. But like with veteran organizations out here, once you get out, that you can join. You know, there has to be a role, and like they're not. Like when the time came to change, they're not changing properly. They're making these really rapid changes. It's not making sense.
It's not balanced. Yeah.
And in turn, and you can give your opinion here. I don't know, but like when Karen Kotowski, she ran against Bob Goodlatte back in 2000. I believe it was 12. That was the first individual that challenged Bob Goodlatte as a congressman here in the 6th District of Virginia. And when her statement was, well, what was frustrating to her, she made it up to Lieutenant Colonel. Mm-hmm. She was in the Pentagon when he got hit on September 11th. And her
allegedly.
Right. Well, her statement was, and I had never heard her say anything different, was, I walked over, they called down 1MC, we need everyone to muster and to come to wherever they said to go to. Mm-hmm. She said it was the way that it was said, it was so, it sounded like nothing, it was almost like a training drill. So she went back, grabbed her pocketbook, walked back over there. Then when they got up there, they see the smoke, and then they're told what had happened. Mm-hmm. So they had to start mustering to, I guess, help get people who were injured and bring them over, and things to that nature. Mm-hmm. All right. She said she never went up to the hole. She saw the hole. She saw the smoke. Mm-hmm. But she said she never walked over there to see if there was a plane inside the hole. The only thing that stood out to her that was very weird was there was no pieces of the plane. It was as if the wings had folded in. There was nothing where it indicated that it like hit the ground on the belly,
because it never did.
And so in turn, but people blasted her for that. They wrapped her because she was an anti-war veteran who was serving, and she was never.
And, I gotta stop you right there.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to add on to what you just said.
Okay.
Just right there. Oh my goodness. Let me tell you something. Brian. Any veteran, any person, all the way to World War II, to June 6th of 1945 on D-Day, all the way to Vietnam, Korean conflict, all the way to Persian Gulf, Desert Gulf, and all these wars. Any veteran that has been in war, actual war, does not ever want that to happen. Ever. And when I hear people saying, oh, we need to go to war, you go out there and you volunteer yourself. Don't ever put out my sisters and brothers out into war. It's not necessary. War is really an ugly, evil, and sometimes it's run like a business. It really is.
General Smedley Butler wrote the book War is a Racket. He talks about how we shouldn't be no farther off the coast than 150 miles. Right. The banks, they fund the war, the build up to the war, they fund the war, they fund the rebuilding after the war. But be it here or there, the question is, Karen Kotowski got blasted. She retired. And how do you bring women in? What would you say, bring women into the military? But see, she couldn't advance because she had never been into quote unquote war. Like, maybe boots on the ground, actually, in that foxhole or whatever. Yeah. In your opinion, should there be a limit to where females go?
No, because I shook hands, took pictures with the very first female admiral I've ever seen in the Navy. It was in the LA Fleet Week. I went there and I support the Navy 112%. I didn't have like every single day rainbows and, cupcakes kind of deal in the military, but I knew that going in. I had a great father that told me, hey, this could happen. This is what's up, right? But when it comes to, I'm going back to what I really wanted to say about sexual assault and how I dealt with it was not the most best way, I should say, to take care of it. But I was very young when I was assaulted, and it was like I have 2 fractures in my neck, dislocated jaw. There was literally blood everywhere, and it was such a devastating, traumatic event that my mind, I erased it. I erased it by first ignoring it and saying, I'm a strong woman. I can get over anything. I can do this. This is my job. This is what my country. I did not lose my patriotism. I lost a lot of other things. And it was like, I felt like for a short period of time, my identity was stolen. And it was, it's so weird. But I literally erased it or put it in such a small box in the back of my soul or my heart or wherever I may have put it. And I told myself that I must keep going forward. And I said it for my family. I said it for my country. And I still, after all that drama, right? All of that, I was not ashamed, right? It wasn't a shame feeling. It was, I am a totally different human being now. I see everything so completely, utterly different. It was like, I don't know how Adam and Eve must have felt when they took a bite of that fruit that was on the tree of good or was it good and evil or knowledge and
knowledge.
And I felt that I was awake. That, okay, so not every day has cupcakes in it and, all this, happiness, right? There are dark days, and I dealt with it by not dealing with it. And I slowly progressed into becoming one of those bad, negative sailors. And then I had a Swicegood. He was I want to say Lieutenant JG, or he was a lieutenant. I cannot remember at this point. Pulled me aside and said, hey, I know you. And I was like, I don't know you, sir. And it was the fact that I was sexually assaulted. I no longer had that innocence to be kind. Like when I was sexually assaulted, my kindness of who I was taken, as well as whatever the rapist, took. Right? And it was, I had to see, when I was in the Middle East and in Greece, I saw 2 massive tragedies. And I felt those 2 massive tragedies were far worse than what I experienced. Right. And to this day, I still think that, though. I still think that, too. But, like, you were sharing earlier, right, about how sexual harassment should be and stuff like that. And I'll tell you, I was about 110 pounds, 4'11". I had long, wavy black hair all the way back to, touching my tush area. And I'm not humbled about this at all. I was extremely exotic and beautiful and young, right? And I know I looked beautiful. So sexual harassment started from day one of the Navy. And because I was raised by my father, my grandfather, my uncle, my 2 cousins that told me about the military prior to going in, I dealt with it by saying it right then and there. knock it off. That's all I said. I'm not that chick. Right? Those were like my 2 lines for sexual harassment. I'm not the one, right? And knock it off. In 90% to 99.9% of the time, that worked. And when it didn't work, that's when I had to tell leadership. But I was always in leadership when I was in the service. So that is another thing that is different from other females in the military. Because I shared with you when I first joined the Navy, I was not an E1, I was an E3. Okay? Right. Then when it was time to become an E4, which is a 3rd class petty officer in the United States Navy, I made it on the first shot. So then when it came to 2nd class, I made it too, And it was just like my motivation and mentality is totally different than others because of the 4 years of NJROTC I had, the amazing father I have, and grandfather in the family that I came from. I was very privileged in the aspect of for mentality wise, right? To be strong, to be independent, to be part of a team, but be able to have your own mind and your own thoughts kind of deal. And no, that's how you were raised too, right, Brian?
Right.
To have your own thoughts, right? Not let other people dictate to you. But so that was the thing. And when I got out of service, Brian, that is when I met this soldier guy named Moses Martinez. I've just put him on blast, right? And he just like punched me in the face with his words, right? And I went to a nonprofit organization that is affiliated with the VA. It's called the Vet Center. And when I met my husband, I actually went for counseling. And I think I only needed literally maybe 2 of the counseling things, but I liked it so much, Brian. I brought my husband into it, and then, other vets, and I was like, this is the greatest place ever, right?
Right.
And it helped me because I never went to the Navy and told any of my leadership that I was sexually assaulted, or actually, I'm a big girl, I can say rape. I never went to any of my family members and said I was raped. I never, ever said anything about it, right? So when it was my turn to talk about sexual assault or rape, I was singing like a canary, And I was like, this is probably why I am the way I am. I always have kept moving forward because that's the way I was raised. Now, your father was in the Navy too, right, Brian?
Yeah.
And so I know you were gun-ho from birth probably, right?
He rarely talked about his military service. I mean, he talked about it a little bit, but for the most part, he got drafted when he was getting ready to go into the 12th grade. He went down there to the recruiting center and said, look, can I finish high school first? They said, well, yeah, you need to finish high school. And since he knew they were going to be sniffing around, he went over to the recruiting station and started to pick out which branch he really wanted to go to, and he picked the Navy. I don't know why he picked out the Navy, but he went there. He was able to pick where he wanted to go. And now once we signed up to the service, he would talk a little bit more about it. But I think he never wanted to be that guy who was like being told that he's forcing the kids into the military. I think that was one of the reasons. He always we were never taught anything bad. He never.
You weren't glorified either, though.
Right. He kept it almost to himself. And, but my granddad was the same way. He was in World War II. You would have to ask him, he would talk about it for a second or two. But for the most part, I don't know, it's almost like guys that had went to war seem like to...
Yeah, I don't talk about it.
They weren't in... And I mean, even me. I mean, I didn't even go to war. Yeah, I was in during wartime. But I've never sat around, when they tell people to stand up if you were in the service at a ball game or something. I never sat... Because I didn't go in there for that. Oh. If I wanted it, I mean...
I stand up. I did, because that's how I was raised. My father did it.
I'll take the 10% off at Lowe's, but I don't need to, thank
you, Lowe's.
That really helps me, keeping my money. Yeah. I can buy more stuff at Lowe's when I need to repair my house. Having people just pat me on the back,
So I think November should be Veterans Month. I really do.
Right.
I feel that all the wars that we've been through, we deserve a month. Yeah. And one thing that I wanted to share was...
So you went to the Veterans Center, you met your husband. Is that Julio?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now you're done. Then you came. That was over in California?
Yes. Okay. Let me tell you why I got out of the Navy. Because that's a good thing. Okay, so I got accepted into another program in the Navy, right? Mm-hmm. That females just didn't get accepted to, right? But because I look a certain way, and I tell this story all the time, I thank the Lord above and all the angels that surround all of this world for the way I look. Because my looks got me into places and got me out of trouble, But I'm not saying I look like so beautiful. I looked different, or I look a certain way that I can fit in different cultures.
Right.
Okay, so I look Hispanic, but I'm not. I look Hawaiian, because I am. I look Middle Eastern. I'm not. I have all these looks that I could fit into each culture, right? And I don't know if you remember Carlos Mencia. Mm-hmm. He said that about the United States. Like in California, he's Mexican. Florida, he's Cuban. You go all these different places. And you go to New York, you're Puerto Rican,
Right.
Okay. So I have that kind of face that when I go to certain... I look Greek. On the island of Crete. I look like them. I think that's probably why I got that little family mentorship, Brian, because I do look Greek, Right. I don't speak Greek, but I sure do eat Greek. Oh, yeah. Give me some olives. So I got to a point in my Navy career that I was gung-ho again. After my sexual assault, I didn't care. I wanted to, I still wanted to go forward. I wanted to see where this Navy career would take me, right? And I was like, I got accepted to this unit. And I can't really talk about what we did or, all that other good details because that would have been a really juicy podcast. Yeah. But what I can share with you is that I got in because of my looks. I didn't get in because I was a squared away sailor or that I was, a 5-star shipmate kind of deal. I just got in because of my looks. And then once I got in, I got 2 toes in the door. Then I got my whole foot and then bam, I walked right through. Didn't even hesitate or didn't think. I fell in love with a guy named Carlos and we got married. Mm-hmm. And I had to make a decision. Do I now, at a later time of my life, start a family? Or do I just do 15 or 10 more years and I can retire out of the Navy,
Right.
And I was totally in love with this man. Woo, in love, right? And he was like, I really want to start a family because I'm getting older. He was getting older. He was only 26 years old. But anyway, now that I'm old, now I think that's young, right? But anyway, so what happened was I made the decision and I got out of the Navy. I don't regret it, but I do regret it. I know that makes no sense what I just said, right? But 6 months after getting out of the military, Carlos dies. Gone. Finito. No more love. No mas. Right? So I was like, holy mackerel. My life is just a pile of interesting moments, right? At this point, I'm trying to keep myself together, right? And so this is what happens. You got to find ways to deal with the trauma, right? Well, I told you the sexual assault trauma, I didn't deal with it at all. I just put it in a little box and put it deep down in my soul and forgot about it, right? And when Carlos passed away, my whole life shattered. I didn't know what was up, what was down, what day of the week it was. I didn't care. So one of my friends, roommates that I had, because I had to move out of, my nice place because I couldn't afford it. And it was Carlos's. It wasn't my place. So I moved into an apartment with a lot of girls. They were all Christians. One was a chef and one was going to be a chef. And the other one was a teacher. And, they're like, what can you do? Da, da, da. And I was like, oh, I don't know what I can do. I don't know. And my door of opportunity to go back into the Navy, it felt like it was, Zulu'd? Okay. That's when you lock all the locks, right? Zulu?
I'm not.
Or Echo?
We never said that.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't.
So I think the doors were Zulu shut. Baby, Zulu shut. So on a Navy aircraft carrier, on a small boy, a destroyer as well, there are a door shutting, and then there is other little teeny tiny handles that seal the door completely, and that's called Zelo. So I felt like my whole entire Navy career, everything that I did and sacrifice was for nothing. And I wanted to go back in with a desire, but my mentality was all jacked up because the one person that I could talk smack to, right, about everybody, right, was Carlos, right? So when he passed and I had, I went into this, it wasn't a depression, but it was. But it wasn't like I didn't want to die. I felt like I was dying.
Right.
Okay. So how I dealt with it was I enrolled in college. I got an education. I used my GI Bill. Well, if the Navy won't allow me back in and doing all the cool shenanigans that I did, all right, I'll just move on. And going to school, I met Kareem, Little Reem, Jeremiah, Kim. I'm trying to think of all my girlfriends now. Drawing a blank. But I met all these amazing people, Brian. And I just, once again, got out of this shell of sadness and I got active and I didn't fight anymore. I was a boxer in the Navy. I did share that a little bit earlier. But I didn't fight anymore. I didn't do any martial arts or anything cool like that. MMA wasn't invented yet. But wouldn't that have been cool, Brian?
Right.
If it was, I was still young. I could still get a little ankle twist in there. Or something crazy like that, right? But no, Brian and I, we love MMA. I love it. And I like UFC too. I love mixed martial arts though. I married a martial artist, so I guess I really do like it. But anyway, so I went to college, Brian. And from there, I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And so I made a decision, and I went to Daytona Beach, Florida, and I went to culinary school. And I got out. I met this amazing girl named Ebony. Now she cooked from the islands, of the Virgin Islands. And my other friend, who was this white guy, that got so much drama put into him. It was not even fun. He was picked on. And the reason he was picked on is because he actually worked in a kitchen prior to going to culinary school. So he had like a really advanced, competitiveness before we even knew what kitchen was, or cooking was, I should say.
Right.
And so I did all of that, and then I got a letter in the mail saying that I was approved to go back into the United States Navy. I was like, are you kidding me? I've been out for 4 years now? And they were like, yeah, this position's open and you still have your security clearances. You still have this, and that, and you can come back in. And I was like, I was so excited, Brian. I didn't know what to do, right? I sold my house, so I didn't have any strings, you know what I mean? Right. So I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have children. My husband's gone or passed away. And it was like, Brian, is this a sign or what? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I was ready. I was ready to sign the contract again. I was ready to do the oath again. I was like such a patriot, right?
Right.
I got in a car accident. And I didn't see, like, you know how people proclaim they see their whole entire life flash before their eyes and all this other shenanigans, right?
Right.
Not saying it's shenanigans that it doesn't happen. I'm just saying that I love the word shenanigans. But I'm just saying that did not happen to me. But I'm not saying that it doesn't happen at all, okay? What happened to me was my future was flashing in front of me. Brian, the Navy wasn't a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what? What, Brian? And so basically, after, healing from my car accident and stuff like that, the door of opportunity was shut again. Zulu'd on me again.
Right.
So guess what I did? I went back to school.
Okay.
Because that's all I know how to do. Right? I got special grants and stuff like that. And I got scholarships. But I mostly got grants. And you got to be careful, Brian. Because there's some grants that you have to pay back. And yeah, those grants are no bueno. But I went to school. And one day, Brian, I just said, I'm done with Florida. Carlos always wanted me to go to California with him, right?
Right.
He wanted me to see what the West Coast was all about and all this other stuff. And I know he wanted to go to Hollywood and all that other shenanigans. But I was like, yeah, I don't mind. I just got my education and I got my experience under my belt of being a chef. And then, Brian, I was an award-winning chef. I've won so many awards and competitions and stuff like that, right? And I was really pumped with confidence, right?
Okay.
Let me tell you something, Brian. California is a beautiful state. It is so fucked up. You can't even begin to imagine how fucked up the culinary institutions, the monopoly system is in California. It's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I'd rather open a restaurant in Iowa than be participating in anything in California restauranting services.
Right.
Okay, so Brian, how many applications did I turn in to be a chef in a kitchen? How many applications do you think I've ever filled out? And resumes and too.
30, 40?
250 some odd applications I filled out.
Wow.
So I have been rejected about 260 sometimes, at least, right? Mm-hmm. There's a thing in the restaurant business, Brian, that you can actually work, right?
Okay.
It's like an introduction. You work for 1 week in a restaurant, right? 1 week is 4 days or 5 days. Okay. You work for free. Okay? So some places do 1 day, some places do 4 days, some places do 5 days. It depends on if you're working for a famous chef, or you're working for a hotel, or you're working for a famous restaurant.
Right. Not
a chef, but a restaurant name. Okay? There's a difference. It's silly, but there's a difference. So anyway, Brian, I got all excited about being a chef, and I just went for it. I just went forward. I'm gonna do this, yada yada. Nobody's gonna stop me, and I've been stopped. I felt like I was pushed down the stairs, Brian. I felt like somebody shoved me in the closet, Brian. I felt somebody just pour water and try to put some electricity on me, kind of deal. Waterboard me, all these negative things, right?
Right.
And I still kept trying because that's my military side, just keep going forward, right? Or like, what was that? Dory from Finding Nemo. Okay. Keep on swimming.
Uh-huh.
That's how I felt. Keep on swimming. And one day I was in my chef outfit, my jacket, my pants, and my shoes, and I had my knives on my side. And I saw this beautiful woman. Oh my gosh, Brian, she was so beautiful. And I think the sun was hitting her too to make her like angelically beautiful as well.
Right.
And I was telling her my story, and I was like, I just want a chance in a kitchen. What does a girl got to do, you know? And she's like, yeah, this is a man's world. And I was like, yeah, I kind of know how that feels. I was in the United States Navy for 1 million years. So yeah, I get that. It's a man's world. She was like, what? And I was like, oh yeah, I was in the Navy. And we started chit-chatting. She's like, I will hire you to work in my kitchen. I said, shut up. And she's like, yes, I will. I was like, are you serious right now? And she's like, yes. I started screaming. She's like, you know why I'm going to give you a chance? Because nobody gave me a chance. Right. Nobody gave, and the chef's name was Chef Michelle. And I tell you, I would do anything and everything to help that girl, right? And
you still in contact with her?
No, not like I once was, no.
Right.
So I got a job, Brian, working at, because the restaurant closed. And I could not get into the restaurant business at all. I couldn't. I just could not do it. So what I did was start my own business.
Right.
And I was cooking for other veterans because vets take care of vets. I don't care what anybody says. Vets will always help out another vet. That's just, it's something in our code. And I feel like, Brian, you are a prime example of that. You know, Tracy, he's also a Navy vet. I'm putting out Tracy's business now. But, you know, you're there for him and he's there for you. And then vice versa. And I'm in the mix somehow too,
right, yeah.
You know. And it's just like, I feel that's what vets, we just do that. We just do that. And it hurts me to see vets that are homeless holding up the signs. I don't know how you feel about that, but that gets to my heartstrings.
Well, you know, when it comes to the homeless situation, you got to figure out the mental illnesses, who's mental ill, who's just lazy. Mm-hmm. You've got to, there's a whole bunch of different, you know, because there's some folks that just want to be homeless.
I know, right?
That don't want any responsibility. I get it, but but it's on turn. Well, they can be homeless if that's what they want. But what I need to do is find the guy who something happened to him, mm-hmm. and if all he needs is a little help up, and he's going to be fine. Where then there's some people who are mentally ill who needs medication, they would be fine. They just need medication for mm-hmm. constant, you know. So that's. I mean, I hate all homeless. Let's be honest. I mean, I can't go out any more sympathetic towards the vet as I am to another guy. I mean, I wish, honestly.
Oh, I have it.
Where I have my issues is the guy who went to Afghanistan or Iraq or the female, and they had some traumatic issue mm-hmm. from either being in war, and like the one guy that I saw, you know, you would have never even figured he was in the military or had any, you know, he looks fine, but when you talk to him, he had severe PTSD. Mm. Then there was the female who was standing just gate guard, or she was standing guard at one of the buildings, and a mortar came over the wall and of the camp mm-hmm. over in Iraq, you know, and she lived, from my understanding, but as the one guy told me who was there, he said, she'll never have kids. I mean, wow. You know, so in turn, she's got that, and here she is, some teenager, you know, mm-hmm. and in the end of the day, here's war. It's governments, it's the leaders who don't get into it.
Nancy fucking Pelosi?
It drives me up the wall. Whenever I hear people say, I support the troops, but then you're sending them into harm's way. It's the same way as when I hear people say, I support police officers, and you send them into harm's way. No,
you defund them. That's what you do, right?
You know, well, yeah, that's a bad thing. But once again, that's how, you know, I just want to see, you know, I hate just the stuff, you know. But
yeah. But yeah, I just want to close out and say thank you so much, Brian, for letting me tell my stories.
You know what? I didn't know it was going to be so long.
Right?
And it was great. I'm glad you did. And what I'm going to have to do is have you come back so we can talk about females in the military.
Yes.
Not just, I mean, you have a story.
Yes.
But everyone has their own. I have a story, you know.
Yeah.
But what we got to do is we got to start looking at different things, such as, like I said, you know, veteran organizations. You know, if
Vet Center. Yeah.
We need to start looking at these organizations. The thing is, the military is changing.
Yes.
And in turn, as Steve told me at the Legion that one day, he told me, he goes, the model of the American Legion needs to be changed. Not just the American Legion, but the model of all veteran organizations, VFW, AMVETS, so forth, so DAV. They all need to be changed, because what it used to be was the boys would go to war, they would come home, they would bring their spouse up there, she would join the auxiliary, the guy would join the post, and then they would do whatever, you know. Now these organizations are dying. Yes. You know, and what's happening is instead of trying to change it, you need all, same way with the military, if because of our conflicts in like Africa and things of that nature, as you were talking about, the way you looked got you different jobs. Because of like Africa, the Navy still don't have a community of a whole bunch of black guys running around.
Nope. It's
a lot of white guys. And this is, instead of disparaging, you don't want to disparage the white guys, but you don't want, you need to bring in some people. Because look, if I show up in the Congo, if you show up in the Congo, we're going to look a lot different. You know, we're going to stand out like a sore thumb. So we need to have someone who looks like the Congo. Well, I guess the people from Congo is an example. But yes, please, I'm glad you were able to come on here. And we
do, Brian, we do have a mixture of military, but I understand what you're saying too.
Yeah.
But like on the aircraft carrier, which I was stationed on, as well as a small boy, there was always a mixture of different cultures and stuff like that. But
I got that on the boat too, and that's the one thing that I loved about the military.
But I don't know too many people that want to be on a sub though.
I met so many people from Puerto Rico, from, you know, different races and religions, and then when you come out civilian world, I don't feel like it's the same. I mean, you don't run into the same thing, but we get into that on a different time. Yes. And but no, thank you for coming on.
You're welcome.
And so that's it. Please go to our YouTube channel. And I'll say all the stuff at the end of this podcast. But you know what? Once again, please go to the Rumble channel for beautiful Chili, and follow her there. And you know, follow. Well, you're on Twitch, or is that it? Just focus on Rumble.
Right? Yeah, focus on Rumble.
All right, focusing on Rumble. So go there, follow her there. It'll be in the description below. So until next time, I'm Brian. That's Chef LiLi, and we will see you next week.
God bless.
Once again, thanks a lot for Chef LiLi for swinging by. Please go to her Rumble channel at Beautiful Chili and give her a follow. And also, thank you so much for listening to Maximum Libertarian today. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Podbean, Spotify, and all the other groovy places you listen to your podcast. Follow us on Twitter at WeAreMaxLib, and our YouTube channel at Maximum Libertarian. That's where we do 5 days a week. A little news story we think you might enjoy. And remember, kids, get active, join your local affiliates, spread the word, and until next time, don't live free, don't be free, stay free.